I am live here. This is Hannibal from the HannibalTV.com, by far Canada's most popular pro wrestling YouTube channel, 125,000 subscribers, almost 90 million total video views and growing by the day. And I'm going to do my review of the Wrestling Observer, which came out today. Let's start with the WWE stock news. WWE grossed 186,383,000 in revenue and turned a $5,862,000 profit, according to their investors' call. This was down from this time last year, where they turned $33,691,000 profit. WWE, one of the main things about this quarter was they lost $3.5 million on house shows this quarter. This is despite canceling a lot of their house shows. And according to Dave Meltzer, they have never lost $3.5 million on house shows over the course of a year, let alone in one quarter until now. So that was a big hit for them. And this is despite them doing a lot of super shows with both brands, even though they try to say the brands are going to be separate. But of course, there's always super shows, and they're always on a lot of the pay-per-views together, which makes the whole brand split stupid. Tommy T says Brock Kane was terrible. Anthony Cole Shabbat also says that the Cain Velasquez match sucked. I am going to get to that. Dave Meltzer also said it sucked. NXT averaged 817 paid fans per show in the third quarter of 2018. However, this quarter, they dropped to 693 fans paid on average, with an average gate of $26,467 per show. So yes, for the people that try and say that NXT is not a development brand, their average was 693 fans per show. So, I mean, they're under 1,000 per show. So of course it's not a major brand. One of the biggest hits was the WWE Network. Subscriptions declined 131,000 less this quarter. It went from 1,597,000 subscribers last quarter to 1,465,400 this quarter. And there's been lots of network problems reported recently too. I don't have the network, but there's been a lot of people having technical issues with the network, as well as the WWE 2K20 game. Apparently there's a lot of glitches in that. There's 8 more years left to this Saudi Arabia deal. Many of the talent that were in Saudi Arabia are actually having flight issues. So a lot of the Smackdown talent is not actually going to make Smackdown tonight. According to Meltzer and the people commenting on this, the Lesnar versus Velasquez and Fury versus Strowman matches were duds on the Saudi Arabia show. Lesnar and Velasquez only went 2 minutes and 3 seconds, and Fury versus Strowman was a very green match. Colin Quayle says, was it a mistake that WWE got rid of Bischoff? In my opinion, he was just a scapegoat. But in the end, it still seems Vince has final approval on everything. And according to Jim Ross, he doesn't see Pritchard being around long, because Pritchard will probably be the next scapegoat, because SmackDown was like horribly down, getting a brutal number last week, 888,000 viewers. NXT this week did 580,000 viewers, which once again they lost for the 5th straight week to AEW, which was also down 759,000 viewers. Raw this week did their 3rd lowest non-holiday viewership in the history of the show, even with Hogan and Flair and Kane on the show, getting 2,133,000 viewers. Also in WWE news, John Cena donated $500,000 to firefighters who were first responders battling the various California fires. So what a great guy he is. Nothing but respect for him. Malf Hop 88 says Pritchard is too much of a brown nose to be fired. Well, they will have to fire someone if the ratings are bad again for the foreseeable future. Someone will have to be a scapegoat. Mafa Fee says Braun is getting buried worse than the Big Show. Also in WWE news, my old friend that used to be friends with me, Jinder Mahal, who was drafted to Raw, is expected to be back early next year from a leg injury. Also, Meltzer points out that it only took them 11 days to violate their new separate roster policy, with Mysterio appearing on Raw. In attendance news, October 24th, I'm going to start with NXT. October 24th in Dade City, Florida, NXT drew 100 fans. October 25th in Jacksonville, Florida, NXT drew 350 fans. October 26th in Lakeland, Florida, WWE NXT drew 250 fans. On Raw, Raw attendance now, October 25th in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, they had 2,900 fans for the Raw house show. October 26th in San Juan, Puerto Rico, a hotbed for wrestling. The Raw house show drew a great crowd of 9,000. Now, Meltzer pointed out in this that they did not use Primo and Eptico on the San Juan show, but watch the Savio Vega talking about Carlito's WWE offer on this channel. Search it up, Savio Vega, the Hannibal TV. Savio told us that Carlito was made an offer, and he said they haven't announced it yet, but the Colognes are actually at finish with WWE. So take that for what it's worth. He said he heard that from Carlito. The Smackdown tapings that featured Hogan, Flair, Cain Velasquez, Brock Lesnar in the wrestling hotbed of St. Louis last Friday, October 28th, only drew 5,000 fans. Colin Quayle said they need some new Canadian faces as heels. Probably they need, wrestling in general has no real legitimate heels at all that I can think of in any company right now that I know of. And for the SmackDown attendance, there was no SmackDown house shows this week. SmackDown had 5,500 fans, again with Hogan, Kane, and Flair, and all those names. They had 5,500 fans. The AEW taping, their Dynamite taping on October 30th. They actually did not outdraw Raw. So right now, I think it's 3-2 now. 3-2 or 4-2 for AEW Dynamite. They're still in the league. I think it's 4-2 actually. They did not outdraw Raw. They had 5,000 fans this past Wednesday in Charleston, West Virginia. So we're seeing the AEW attendance decline as the weeks go by. And of course, the NXT taping in Winter Park, Florida this week had 400 fans. Anthony Shabbat says NXT had great matches, but the ratings sucked. Jeff the Bull says they got to stop bringing in legends and start actually a farm system in their roster, meaning WWE. In MLW news, there wasn't much news this week. The main news was Court Bauer said they've made the decision not to run any events over WrestleMania weekend this year, nor going forward. In Ring of Honor news, Jay Lethal suffered a broken arm October 27th in his match with Pierre Carl Ouellet, former Great North Wrestling Canadian champion, who has not re-signed with Ring of Honor yet, from what he's told me personally. The bad advances of less than 100 tickets being sold for their upcoming Texas tour, November 9th and November 10th in Dallas and San Antonio, were part of the reason, according to Meltzer, that Ring of Honor moved those events to June 5th and 6th of next year. Maybe they're hoping the larger break in between events will help get more tickets sold for the future. They had really bad crowds for their UK tour. They only had about 400 fans at York Hall in London on October 25th. In Newport, Wales, October 26th, they went all the way to Wales only to get 150 fans. And keep in mind, they're probably rounding up for that. And October 27th in Bolton, UK, they had a little over 300 fans. So that's a long way to go to get 400 fans in London, 300 fans in Bolton, and 150 fans in Wales. They probably lost money on that tour. However, they do get a lot of money for their TV. They're owned by a TV company, so they need content. So I don't see Ring of Honor going away anytime soon. Adam Burch, who is known as Joey Mercury in WWE, was let go over something that happened on the Ring of Honor UK tour this past weekend. Look at my channel, says Jake Hager hasn't had a match yet in AEW. Yeah, well, he probably will now that he has had his MMA fight, which I will get into later in this podcast. Say What says if PCO doesn't re-sign, could we see him back in Great North Wrestling? Well, he doesn't appear to want to wrestle independent wrestling dates. Technically, he could wrestle for Great North Wrestling now because we don't put on events in towns that Ring of Honor goes to, but he doesn't seem to want to wrestle independent dates. That's why you haven't seen him in Great North Wrestling. I predict that he will either re-sign with Ring of Honor or sign with AEW, because he did tell me he had an offer for AEW before he signed with Ring of Honor last year, but he decided to go with Ring of Honor for the year contract. Let me just have a sip of coffee here, the Hannibal TV coffee mug, which you could hardly see, but someone was nice enough to have this engraved for me. All right. In Bellator news, I'll go to the Bellator news before UFC because someone brought up Jake Hagar. In his third pro fight, it only went a minute and 56 seconds with Anthony Garrett before he couldn't continue after being kneed in the groin 3 times. So I did an interview with Anthony Garrett. You can watch it on this channel. There was some controversy saying that he didn't want to wait the 5 minutes recovery period before deciding if he could go on after the third groin shot. But Garrett told me the referee stopped the fight. He didn't give him the full 5 minutes. The referee just stopped the fight. So that's why he didn't wait the 5 minutes. He didn't have a choice. That's coming straight from the horse's mouth. He wants a rematch. Some people are saying that Jake Hagar should actually fight me. Some MMA people are saying that. And hey, I mean, apparently that fight with Frank Mir against my buddy Roy Nelson, who I did an interview with on this channel, Mir got the decision over Roy Nelson. And I think Rory McDonald was also on that card. I grappled with him in the past. McDonald lost. I forget who he lost to. But they only had 265,000 viewers for that Bellator card with Jake Hagar. So maybe they should put him against someone that can talk. And hey, I'm a safe guy to fight. That's actually like, again, he's picking safe opponents. I'm a safe opponent. I haven't even trained in fighting since my last kickboxing match in February. But I'll tell you one thing. I could do better against Jake Hagar than any of the opponents he's been put up against so far. And there would definitely be more hype to the match with me. So I'm just throwing that out there. I mean, give me an 8-week training camp, and you know what? That'd be a hell of a fight. In UFC news, Dana White says they are targeting Conor McGregor versus Donald Cerrone for January 18th. So that could be interesting. Paulo Costa, who was expected to get a shot at the middleweight championship, suffered a bicep injury, according to Dana White. By the way, for these comments, I'll go through some of them when I'm done the news. Tito Ortiz says after he beats Alberto El Patron on December 7th, he wants to fight Ryan Bader for the Bellator light heavyweight title. So I'm going to be doing a Skype interview with Tito Ortiz sometime this month. In news from the UFC in Singapore, which happened October 26th, Dermaine Maia defeated Ben Askren, who I've interviewed, in the third round of an exciting fight. He got a submission victory. It's unknown if Ben Askren is going to continue. He hasn't had the best record in UFC, but he's been doing like really interesting fights, and he's only 35. The $50,000 fight of the night bonus went to Maia and Askren, while performance of the night bonuses, I'll butcher this name, sorry, went to Bernil Dalrouche and Cyril Gain. The Singapore event drew a crowd of 7,155 fans, which was slightly up from their last Singapore event in June 2018. Underdog says Ben should retire. Well, who knows? If he's making good paydays, he does have a family. You know what? Who knows? Maybe he shouldn't retire. Maybe he should give it at least one last fight. I would give it one last fight if I was Askren. Lastly, for the news, before I get to some of these comments, the XFL, I guess, is offering $27,000 basically as their base salary for players, with $1,685 bonuses per games played. It'll be a 10-week season plus 2 weeks payoff, and $2,222 per win bonuses. All players are going to be employees, unlike wrestlers who are still, for some stupid reason, considered independent contractors. I don't know how WWE gets away with that. And CFL actually is going to pay players more than XFL, by the way. I read an article on that for all of you Canadian CFL fans watching this channel. Apparently, players are all going to be basically only employees until May 31st, at which time they're going to be able to sign with NFL if they choose. There's not going to be any long-term employees. Now, let me look at some of these questions here. McGregor only got $1,000 fine for sucker punching that old guy in a bar. What a joke. I don't know if that's finished yet. I don't know if that, I haven't heard anything that either that or the sexual assault thing have been finished yet. I believe there might be assault charges still stemming from his sucker punch. Someone says Jay Hazard, yes, says I should fight Alberto El Patron. You know what? I really don't have much interest in fighting for Combate America. I don't have much interest in fighting, but the Jake Hager thing, I think that would be a good fight for both of us. Alberto El Patron, I don't have much interest in fighting him. What's my opinion of dog leg super handicap wrestling? Never heard of it. Ben said he got into MMA because he loves wrestling, not MMA itself. Well, he also went to UFC apparently because he wants to win championships, but it's not looking like he'll win a championship, but he is being paid well. Do I like Bray Wyatt winning the championship? Well, he is a better champion. First of all, it's stupid that they have two world champions. Let's face the facts here. The real world champion is Brock Lesnar. He is the true leader of the company. He is the true draw of the company. Bray Wyatt is a better champion than Seth Rollins. Seth Rollins is supposed to be a baby face, but Wyatt's being cheered over Rollins. Wyatt is really a baby face. Rollins is whining constantly on social media and in the ring after shows. He's not over as a face. He's not a mainstream star. I personally find him boring. At least the character of Bray Wyatt seems to be getting over. I haven't seen much of it, but I did like that they were using Waylon Mercy as the buzzard voice. I would love to see Waylon Mercy, Danny Spivey, who I did an interview with, look it up on this channel, in an on-screen role. Nick Pelton says, that's good news for the CFL. Yes, it is. Because apparently, originally, XFL was going to have a higher pay back when there was that other league, which isn't, the name isn't coming to me right now, but the league went out of business. So XFL was going to have to be competing for football players' salaries. But now, basically, XFL has no competition. So they can basically pay very low fees to a lot of players that would play pretty much for free anyways, because they're not in the NFL and they want a chance to be seen. So yeah, good news for the CFL. By the way, superstar Billy Graham did make a post on Facebook the other day about his heart condition. He did reemerge after not saying much after his heart attack. So search it up. He's still having medical issues. He's encouraging people to still donate to his GoFundMe. I'm going to be back in Phoenix around March. Hopefully, I can get another interview with him around that time. Don Fry is back in the hospital. I'll also try and check in with him. Someone, Boxing Legend 2011, says I should have a slapping contest with Billy Jack Haynes. I'm not into letting people slap me in any. You know what? I had to take that in the dungeon back when I was training for wrestling. I don't like being slapped, okay? I'm not going to do any slapping contest, even if it's against someone like Billy Jack Haynes, okay? I'm not going to let anyone take free shots at me anymore. I mean, if I'm going to fight someone in a shoot fight, I'll fight them, but I'm not going to let anybody slap me in the face. Any chance of me going to AEW? If they made me an offer, probably, but I don't see them making any offers to me. They know how to reach me. When they first, Billy Graham made a whole video saying that AEW should hire me. He made a plea that he actually cried in, and they never gave any feedback. And that's the guy that holds the Madison Square Garden most consecutive sellouts record, recommending me. And we got no feedback from that. So there doesn't seem to be any interest in me from AEW. But again, I'm doing just fine on my own as a reporter, and I'm doing great as a reporter. Very happy with that. But why these Ring of Honor and MLW companies wouldn't want someone like me who could actually be a great addition to their roster is beyond me. Impact is a shit company. I would never want to work for them. The stuff that they're doing now with Ken Shamrock, taking dick moves from Joey Ryan. I lost respect for Shamrock when I saw that on Twitter. Like, that's just sad and really pathetic on Shamrock's part. Will I do another interview with superstar Billy Graham? Underdog's asking me. Yes. I'm going to try and get one. Don't look at my channel. It says AEW is filled with boring vanilla midgets. If the owner, Tony Khan, was a real fan of pro wrestling, he should know we need larger-than-life athletes. I agree they are lacking in larger-than-life athletes. And the thing about the little guys in AEW is they're taking these crazy moves that look like no one would ever get up from them, and they're getting up from them, and they don't even look like they could absorb those. So whatever. I'm not watching it. If people are fans of it, good. I'm glad that they're giving WWE competition. Definitely not. Did I see the best WWE match in history, Kane versus Brock? No, but that guy's being sarcastic. Mark Lawson's being sarcastic. But I am going to look it up, guys, for sure. Riley Wells Boone is saying Feinstein is. Somebody send me the link of Feinstein dissing me, because he's always been respectful to me. I've never heard of him dissing me, but if he is dissing me, I want to see the actual link. But yes, the shoot interviewers, of course, are jealous that I am by far the #1 shoot interviewer in the world. Please do a shoot interview with Ole Anderson and Ricky Morton. Ricky Morton for sure. Ole Anderson eventually, if I ever get to Atlanta. Don't look at my channel. Who's my favorite wrestler in WWE or AEW? It's Brock Lesnar. I believe he is why he's my favorite, because he's a legitimate wrestler. He does not break kayfabe. Unlike, I did a video on my issues with the whole Saudi Arabia. I don't even want to talk about it because it pisses me off. I've actually been researching Saudi Arabia and what a horrible place it is, and I don't even want to get into it. But here's another problem I had with this girls' match, okay? I'm just going to say this. You got a heel and a face, okay? And they hug and cry together and put their arms up at the end of the match. There's no kayfabe anymore, and this is why WWE is on the decline, okay? You don't want to see that at the end of the movie. Even if you're watching a movie, let's say, what's the last movie I saw was maybe Rambo. Do you want to see Sylvester Stallone and the Mexican guy that killed his daughter in the credits shake hands and say, oh, what a great movie, great working with you in the credits? No, you don't. So this is one of the reasons why I am not a wrestling fan anymore. But yeah, Brock kayfabes. Brock is legitimate, and he looks like a wrestler. He turns heads. For my favorite AEW guy, he hasn't wrestled yet, but Jake Hager, because he's legitimate, he looks like a wrestler and he can wrestle. Okay, so even though I said I'd fight him at Bellator, it doesn't mean I don't respect him. So yeah, I also think Jericho's entertaining, by the way. Steve Blackman or the British Bulldog. Those would be good topics for shoot interviews. Very good. And someone says WWE killed kayfabe years ago, douchebag. Well, it's not just that. Impact is the worst for kayfabe. It's by far the worst. I can't even, I hate that company so much. It's by far the shittiest company in the world, which, by the way, Dave Meltzer wrote that their Bound for Glory pay-per-view recently was the worst of the Don Callis regime. There's no pay-per-view numbers for that. Anyways, I'm gonna wrap this up. I've been going on for over half an hour here. Thanks for all the questions. Last question though. Who should be inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame in 2020? Vader's long overdue. Ming is long overdue. Those are two guys that come straight to my head right now. Kamala, before he passes away, put Kamala in, but I don't see them putting Kamala in because he's been too outspoken about WWE. Same with Motor Stash says Demolition. Apparently there's big heat with them in WWE, so that ain't going to happen yet. Benoit, no, he's a child killer. You know what? Put your shoes. Imagine you were a 4-year-old or however old the child was getting killed by your father after he killed the mother. Imagine how horrible that would be. That guy is a horrible, horrible person. He should never be in the Hall of Fame, ever.